Hi everyone, I'm Angie and welcome to Make It Monday. So this month we are going to create some Valentines and a Valentine treat box. So we're doing a particular size today. These are called ATCs or artist trading cards. And what artist trading cards are is they're a 2.5 by 3.5 card that doesn't have, it doesn't fold open like a normal card. It's just more of a postcard type size. And what artist trading cards are is artists make these little cards, and then when they go to trade shows or meet other artists, they trade these cards back and forth. So we're going to do a take on that for Valentines. This also reminds me of the small little Valentines that you used to hand out when you were a kid. So we're going to get started. I'm going to move some of this out of the way. And we're going to start with our first Valentine. Now, I'm going to have a supply list of everything that I used in the description box of this video. So if you're looking for particular things or some of the sizes, some of this is just going to be use what you have in your house. You can cut up old greeting cards. You can use tissue paper. You can use scrapbook paper. Just buy a very small pad of something that's all coordinated for you, and these would be super easy to make and super inexpensive. So we're going to start with this style first. And I've mixed this up a little bit, so it's not going to be exactly what this is, but I wanted to show you another option that you could do for this. So what I have is my base piece of paper. So this is what's cut to 2.5 by 3.5. And then I have a base layering piece, which we're going to layer on top of that, and is going to leave a very small border. So it's going to look similar to that. And then I have just some small pieces of scrapbook paper. I have a little frame that we're going to use. I have some washi tape and a little bow. And then I also have what's called mulberry paper. It's just a handmade paper that when you get the edges wet and you pull it, it will actually fray. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a moment. Okay, so let's get started with what we're going to do. And some of what putting things together is just a matter of layering things on top of each other. So we're going to start by tearing our mulberry paper, and all I'm going to do is just get a paintbrush wet, and you can find mulberry paper at any type of art store. The other thing is on this one, this is just tissue paper that I just tore, so it doesn't have to be mulberry paper. I had this in my stash, so I thought I would use it. But this is on this particular one is just a piece of tissue paper that one of the gifts I came wrapped in, and it had little foiled hearts on, so I thought that was kind of fun. So for the mulberry paper, I'm just going to get the tip of my paintbrush wet, and I'm just going to run it along the edge and then just pull. And that's just going to feather that paper wherever I got it wet. So I can actually make it curve a little bit. And it doesn't need to be perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. I want it to be a little bit random. So I'm just going to pull that all the way around. Whoop. Like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's just to give it some texture. And sometimes where you have those thicker fibers, it doesn't always tear as easy. Okay, so we have that ready to go. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just take some tacky glue. This is just some craft tacky glue. And I'm going to put it on the back of this and mount it to our base piece. So I'm just going to take and run just a thin line of liquid glue. Now you could use a tape runner or double stick tape for this. I just prefer liquid glue. It's just inexpensive to use. Whoop. All right, and we're going to flip this over carefully, and we are going to mount this right onto our base piece that is black. Okay, so now we've got our base piece on there. Now to glue the mulberry paper down, I'm going to use a glue stick for that, just because liquid glue I think will seep through too much. So this is just an art glue stick. I'm just going to put some glue stick on the back of this. Whoop. And we are going to kind of use this as a guideline here. And we're going to kind of place this a little more off to the right side there. And I'm just going to smooth that out. And that just gives a little texture in the background. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is, this is just some scrapbook paper that I had. It looked like this. I just cut a small piece down to fit behind this frame, and I am just going to put some glue on just the back edges of my frame here. And for those of you picking up a kit from the library, you will have these frames already cut for you. Okay, and so then I'm just going to center that word love kind of right in the middle of that and just kind of press the edges down. Now to get frames like this, if you have a die cutting machine, you can use your circle dies to do this. If you don't have that, you can cut your own frame, or sometimes you can buy little sets of frames at the craft store. Okay, and so next I want to do something with this red piece. So I'm going to kind of layer that red piece, and I'm going to layer this. But again, I want to give this a little bit of texture, so I'm going to tear one edge. And because this paper has a white core, if I tear it towards me, that white core is going to show a little bit. So I'm just tearing just a small piece of this. And then I kind of like to audition things. I just kind of lay things down. And I think I want to add a little bit of stamping to this. So I think I have this cute little heart that's hanging from a string. Looks like that. So I think I'm going to just take and stamp that with a little bit of black ink, if I can find my black ink pad. And I want to make sure I don't get it too far down, because that's going to go down in there. So I'm just going to line that up and stamp that down. So I've got just a little bit of heart hanging there. Okay, so I've got this going, and I've got this going. And then I've got some black and white polka dot washi tape, which I think will be fun to just add to this. So I'm just going to take and run this just down one side here. Now this could be a piece of paper. It could be, you know, just a scrap of glitter paper. It could be a lot of different things. All right, so I'm just going to take some scissors and snip that off at the edges. Okay, so all we're really doing is just building up layers to add interest to this. Well, let's see, I'm missing, there it is. Okay, so we've got our little heart here, which I'm going to kind of butt up over that. We've got our little love frame here. And then I have these little white bows. Now, little embellishments like this you can get just about any place. And you don't have to have them. I just thought it was kind of a cute thing to add to this. All right, and then I have, I didn't put them in there. Hang on, let me just grab, there they are. Sorry about that. Okay, So I think I'm ready to go ahead and glue this piece in place. And there is really no rhyme or reason as to a specific plan for these. It's more just layer it until you like it. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just layer things together till you like the look of it. Okay, so we've got that on there. Now I'm going to glue this in place. And you could take this and hang it off the edge of it and then snip that frame if you wanted to. So I'm just going to add some glue to the back of our frame there. And sometimes I like to use a tweezers just to hold on to things, especially when it has glue on the back. So I'm going to take and just slide that where I like it and just press that into place. And then I'm going to take and just add that. But before I add that, if I want to add a sentiment or something to the back side of this, stamp it before you put anything bumpy on it. So I have like a little Happy Valentine's Day stamp. I have a Happy Love Day stamp. I think we'll use this one. And I'm just going to stamp this in black ink on the back. So you can always use the back of your card to stamp your little message or to hand write a little message onto your little card. Okay, so we're going to add that in place. There we go. And then I think we'll also, we'll add maybe a little heart to the back of this and maybe to the front as well. So let's see, I've got a bunch of just little hearts that I die cut here. So I think we'll add a little red heart there. And maybe we'll add one like this to the back side. So we'll just take that little silvery or glittery heart, and I'm just going to put a dot of glue there. And we're going to pick this up and just place it right underneath our saying. And if you get glue that oozes out, you can just kind of wipe that away. Most tacky glue and artists or craft glue will dry clear. So I'm going to flip that back over. And I want just another little heart down here. And you could use something like confetti too, little heart confettis. So we're just going to place that there. This is just a pick and stick tool. It's just kind of sticky on the end, helps me pick up small things. It's called a jewel picker. So, and then we'll add our little bow right up here. So I'm going to put a little bit bigger dollop of glue there so that that will hold in place. And I'm just going to place my little bow on top there. And just kind of hold it in place. And there, our first little artist trading card is done. Now you could take like some glitter glue and color in this heart if you wanted. Like I said, there's no rhyme or reason, just have fun with it. All right, so I'm going to clean up from this particular one and I'll be back with the next one. Okay, we are now ready to move on to our next Valentine. And this one is going to be more of a vintage type Valentine. So, the background piece actually came from a piece of scrapbook paper that I had bits and pieces of left. So I decided that I would cut that up, and what we're going to use is a portion of this piece here. And then the doilies are just little doilies that I got, you know, the craft store. And then I cut them into quarters so I could just use a piece of that. And the little ephemera pieces like this came out of a piece of scrapbook paper. So there is lots of different things you could do. You can just cut squares out of old greeting cards, whatever you choose. Okay, so to do this, we're not going to glue this to this first because there's things I want to do to this where I don't want it mounted to my background. And the ephemera pieces, the paper was really thin, so I want to mount it to a piece of cardstock. So I'm going to do that first. This is just a cream piece of cardstock. I picked cream because of the vintageness of the paper. So I'm just going to do a line of glue on this and just glue that onto our piece of scrap or cardstock there. And I just cut the cardstock so it would be just slightly larger then. So I'm going to do a similar layout to this, where I'm going to put the doily kind of in the bottom corner. And then I'm going to mount this with some foam tape. This is just 3M foam mounting tape that you can buy at Target, the hardware store. And then we're going to add some little hearts and some stamping to this. So I want to glue my doily on first. And that I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue. On the doily part, I'm just going to put little dots of glue in different places because I don't want it to ooze through too much, but I need it to stick in those areas. And then I'm just going to kind of line this up in the corner and press it in place. And then I want to add a little bit of stamping to the background before we mount this in place. So I have a couple different vintage type stamps here that have little writing on, a little posted one. And I'm just going to take, because this paper is fairly light, I'm going to choose a lighter brown ink. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp. And I'm going to stamp off a little bit first because I don't want it to be super dark up on top here. So I'm just going to add a little stamping there. I'm going to stamp off once and add some down here onto the doily. And when I do the stamping, I kind of just go from side to side. So if it's in this corner, I kind of coordinate it up in that corner. And I'm also going to add a little bit of this round postage to it. I always like round stamps. I think they're kind of fun. Just adds a little bit of interest to the background. This I think I'm going to add down here. And you can stamp it right over the doily. So it just makes it look a little more vintage. Just a little fun to add some stamping to that. So I'm going to move those out of the way. And then next I want to add some washi tape again. And again, this could be a strip of paper. Let's see. Oh, I don't have that one here. But yeah, you could just take a strip of paper and run it down there. So we're going to take some of this washi tape, and I found this kind of design that works. Now this time with the washi tape, I'm actually going to just flip it to the back side of this instead of trimming it off, and then that will secure that washi tape really well. And then I'm going to just trim that off. So there we've got just a piece of washi tape. Again, doing these, a lot of it is just about adding layers to add interest. So then I think we're ready to mount this. And when I chose this, because there was blue in my paper and there's a little bit of blue in the stamping, that worked. So now I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to the back of this. This stuff is kind of sticky, so if you have a non-stick scissors like this, that works really good because then your scissors don't get all gunky. So So we're just going to put a couple pieces of this on the back side of this. And I don't want it to sag in the middle there, so I'm going to just take and fit a couple small pieces right in the middle there. And actually, before I attach this down, I'm going to glue this onto our background piece. So once I have all my stamping and things done, that's what I wanted to do before I put it on there. And I've got just a little piece of doily hanging over the edge here, so I'm just going to trim that a little bit. Add my glue to the background. Pick that up. And we're just going to mount this right on. And this is the other thing I like about using liquid glue, is it gives you time to move things around a little bit to make sure your piece is even on your background. And then I'm just going to press that into place. Sometimes I'll put something heavy on that while that dries. Okay, so then for this piece, we're just going to peel off the backing on the foam tape. And I'm going to use my tweezers to help me out here a little bit. And we're just going to kind of position this. I kind of want those flowers to show. So I'm just going to position that like that. And then I've got some gold hearts here that we're just going to kind of position around. And when I add embellishments like this, I kind of like to do them in threes. So I think I'll do one there. Something about odd numbers is really appealing. We'll put one there. And I think I'll put one down here in the corner. So I kind of make a visual triangle when I add those. So I'm just going to kind of lay those in place and grab my glue and my little pickup stick here. And just put a dot of glue down there. And then just place that right on top and scooch it into place. Put a dot of glue here. And a dot of glue down here. Oh. All right. And again, you could stamp something on the back. I mounted everything before I thought to do that, but again, you could just stamp something on the back or write a little personal message on the back. Okay, so there is our second one done. All right, I'm going to clean up and we'll start with our next one. Okay, on to our third Valentine. So this one is kind of a simple one. But I did something kind of fun. So I took a heart and I cut it out of watercolor paper. And we're going to make kind of a variegated looking heart using watercolor. So what I'm using are water-based inks. They're called Distress inks. And they are a water-based ink that you can actually watercolor with. So how we're going to do this is I'm not going to get my paper wet to start with. I'm just going to pick up color. And I've got my brush fairly wet. And I'm going to work from the bottom to the top because I want the darkest color to be at the bottom. And so I'm just going to brush some color on and let it fade out towards the top. And I'm going to add some more color down here. And it's going to be really light to start with. I'm using a really light colored ink to start with. And I'll just bring that so that it kind of fades up into the top. And then what I'm going to do is dry it. To layer watercolor, you need to dry in between to deepen the color. So pardon the noise, I'm just going to dry this a little bit. just to set that color before I start adding more. Okay, that's good enough. It doesn't need to be completely dry, it just needs to be mostly dry. And then I'm going to pick up some more color, and I'm actually going to add some darker color into this time. So again, I'm going to just, and I put the paper towel under there just to absorb a little bit of the excess color coming off the edges. I'm going to get a little bit more water on my brush because it's kind of dry. Because I still want the colors to blend together. I just don't want them to completely overpower. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush a little bit because I want to go into that lighter color again up towards the top here. Okay, now I'm going to dry again. And I kind of go with what my background color is. So this is the background paper I'm going to use on this one. It's got some peach and some pink, so that's why I'm mixing these two colors together. This one I did like 2 shades of red. And I want this just a little bit darker. And what I can do is lay it on top of my paper and say, okay, is that dark enough? But I'm going to make it just a little bit darker. I want more color in there. So I'm actually going to start with my lighter color at the top and come down into that bottom layer a little bit. And then I'm going to really add some color onto the bottom. Actually, I'm going to pull this off the paper towel for just a minute, just because I think it's absorbing too much of that color. All right, I'm just going to rinse my brush. Go back onto the paper towel here. And I don't like that line there, so I'm just going to take some straight water and go across that, and that will kind of get rid of that line. And I need a little bit more of my light color. And this is just a plastic palette that I'm squishing this ink onto. So again, I'm going to pick up some of this and kind of, where the two colors meet, I kind of want them to blend together a little bit. So I'll kind of work them back and forth. And that's why I'm using watercolor paper, because that will handle all of the water that I'm adding to this. Okay, I'm going to dry again. And you can do drying with the hairdryer too. You just have to kind of hold on to it because a hairdryer has a lot more air going through it. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I like that. All right. So the next thing I want to do is take, I'm going to set my palette out of the way here, is take and wrap some twine around this heart. Now on this particular one, I had used a little bit thicker silver twine. I found it was kind of hard for the knots to stay on it, so I switched to this. Basically, it's a roll of embroidery, or not embroidery, crochet thread. And so what I'm going to do is we're just going to wrap some of this around there. And what I like to do is just get some Scotch tape to just hold that in the back as I'm wrapping so that it doesn't move all around. So as I wrap it into the back, I'm just going to tape that first one in place. And I want to leave this end because I want to be able to tie our little tag on there. So I'm going to wrap again. And then I'll just put a little piece of Scotch tape back there again. Should have had the Scotch tape ready first. Okay. There we go. And I'll tape that on the back side. And then one more time, and I didn't learn. Get your Scotch tape ready first. tape that in place. Whoop, I got Scotch tape sticking out the end there. I'll just fold that under a little bit. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra string here. Whoops, I'm probably off camera there. There we go. All right, and then I have this little tag. And what I did is I just took some blending foam and just blended the same colors that I had used for the heart onto the tag. And then onto the tag, I am going to stamp. I have these tiny little conversation heart stamps. And there's my black ink pad. So I'm just going to take and stamp this little saying right on the edge. Not my best stamping, but it'll do. And then I am going to actually put it on this string because this is tucked into the bottom. I'm going to attach my little tag and I'm going to tie a knot. And the reason I tie a knot first is so that everything kind of stays in place. And then I'll come back and tie the bow. So mind my fingers here. Just trying to tie a knot without getting my hands too much in the way. So I'll tie a knot. And then I'll, whoop, my strings kind of came around. And I will just tie a bow. And then I can scooch that bow so that it's a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay, got a little bit of extra thread hanging out here. I'm just going to trim that. There we go. Okay, and then I also, on that little tag, want to glue this little tiny heart on there. So I'm just going to take my little finer tip glue bottle and put a dab of glue here. My little pickup stick. Tweezers works really well too to pick your things up with. And I'm just going to tuck that little heart on there. Okay, I'm going to set that aside to dry for a little bit while we layer our other pieces up. So I took some colored cardstock that just kind of matched this and cut my base piece. So again, we're just going to glue our base piece. And you could use the other side of this paper too. That would also be really pretty. Actually, maybe we should use that. I actually think I like that side better. So we're going to use the flowered side. It all still matches together. That's the one nice thing about double-sided paper, is it usually coordinates with each other. Okay. So I'm going to mount this right onto there. And then we're going to take and mount this with more foam tape. It just will lift it off the page and it just gives it a little bit more dimension. So I'll put one piece like that. And one piece like this. And I'm going to cut a little piece that's going to sit right down in the tip of that heart, just to support that so it's not just hanging out there. All right. Fix my strings a little bit here. Okay, I'm going to peel off the backing. And we are going to layer this right on our background. And then I'm going to take my scissors and trim up my bow a little bit here. Whoop. Rid of those extra strings. And there is our third Valentine. So I wanted to do two different options so you guys could see different ideas of what to do with those, but kind of the same layout. So there is that one. All right, I'm going to clean up again and we'll be back with our fourth Valentine. Okay, so we're on to our fourth Valentine. And this is the style we're going to make on this one. And so again, I've got my pieces here. These pieces we cut on our silhouette machine at the library. But again, you could cut any shape. If you have stickers or something like that, you could use a sticker. So the first thing I want to do is, because this is kind of plain on the edges, I'm going to take and darken the edges like I did on this one. And how I'm going to do that is with some Distress ink again in aged mahogany and a makeup sponge. And I'm just going to dip the makeup sponge onto the ink pad and then just brush it on the edges of the heart. And what that's going to do is, I picked a color that was darker than the heart was, and it's just going to accentuate that edge a little bit to make it stand out a little bit more. It also will hide the white core of the paper. So I'm just going to take and go around this. You could do this with like a natural sponge as well. The makeup sponges work just fine though, and they're fairly inexpensive to pick up at the drugstore. Okay, that looks pretty good. And so that just makes that edge stand out a little bit more. And this one's going to be pretty simple. So I'm also using some postage stamps. So I have collected postage stamps off envelopes for years. To me, they're like little pieces of artwork. And so I just dug through my collection and found some postage stamps that work with this. I have a little decorative scissors that will cut a postage edge. So when I take them off the envelopes, I just cut around the edge with that decorative scissors. So that's how that edge came out. And then this again is just a piece of scrapbook paper that we had in the stash at the library, and a piece of white cardstock. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our washi tape. And so what I did is I kind of looked at the colors of what I was using and found a piece of washi tape that worked with that. And I'm going to work in thirds. So when you work in thirds, it's kind of a design element where things go on 1/3. So when I decide to where to put the washi tape, it's usually 1/3 of the way up the page. And I'm just going to kind of eye this. And again, we're just going to lay this down and wrap the edges to the back. So I'm just going to trim that off and just wrap the edges to the back side. And then we're going to take our heart. Actually, we're going to mount this onto here first before we start adding foam tape and things. So this is a fairly simple layout. And again, you just have to look to see what's around your house. You can, like I said, you can use stickers, you can freehand cut your hearts. It doesn't, you know, if you are a paper crafter, you've got stuff in your stash that will work for this. And again, it's just kind of all about layering things up together to create some dimension on these and some interest. All right, so I've got this mounted. This is just a white piece of paper, cardstock. Okay, so the heart we're going to kind of put at an angle. So that's kind of on 1/3 of that. And then we're going to put this here. And again, we're going to use some foam tape to just bring it up off the base of the page. Just adds more depth and interest to it. So again, I'm just going to cut pieces. Oh, that's a little bit big. Cut some pieces of foam tape and put it on the back of this. Put a piece there. I'm going to cut a smaller piece to go down in the tip of that heart. So we're going to put that right down there in the tip. I just don't like areas to sag. I'm going to tuck that right in there, and we'll take that other little piece and just kind of put it there. All right, so I'm going to peel the backing off of this. And I'm going to just kind of position this at an angle onto my little card. Then we're going to take our little postage stamp. Now, because this has foam tape on, I'm going to put glue on this portion and I'm going to put foam tape on that portion. So if I flip that over, the foam tape is going to go over here. So there's my foam tape, and then I'm going to put glue right along this edge. Now, if you wanted to, on this one I stamped like a little bee mine because this heart really didn't have any texture or anything. So I wanted a little something there. Let's see. What else do I have here? I should have stamped this before I put this on here, but I'll be really careful and just stamp it on here anyway. This time I'm going to put it right in this area here because that's where the most space is. And I'm just going to just gently press down, hold it for a second, and pick it up. There we go. All right, so now we're going to add a little bit of glue to this side here. And we're going to peel the backing off our postage stamp. And we're just going to kind of sandwich that right in the crook of that heart. I kind of want to make sure I've got that straight. So there, the foam tape is on this side and the glue is gluing it to the heart itself. And now I've got some glitter hearts, some red glitter hearts that I'm just going to position around this. And again, I'm going to kind of work in threes. I just think odd numbers work best. So I'll just kind of position those where I want them. And again, we're just going to use our little pickup tool. Again, a tweezers works really well for this. And just put a little dot of glue. Whoop, come off of there. There we go. And put that there. Tip that a little bit. And this one's just going to kind of overhang that other heart a little bit. There we go. And there is our fourth Valentine. Super simple. So they don't have to be as fancy as some of the ones we've done. But again, it's just a matter of finding little things and layering them together on this little size card. All right, so we're going to clean up from this, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to work on the treat box, which is this. And then we're going to work on our little envelopes that are coming with this that you'll have to assemble. So we'll be back once again. Okay, everyone, we are back for our last couple pieces to put together. So the last piece is this pillow box. And it opens on the end like this. And you can put little Valentine treats in there. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So I have a die cut that actually will cut the two pieces for this pillow box. I have a pattern for a bigger one. I'm going to see if I can shrink it down and get it close to this. I did the die cut one because it was just a little bit easier for me to prep everything. So that's what we're going to work with today. So it comes in two pieces. And what we're going to do is add some double-sided adhesive to these flaps. But before I do that, I want to kind of bend on these score lines. So what a score line is it just creases the paper to break the paper fibers so that it will bend in that spot. If you were making this by hand and you didn't have a die cut machine, you could just use a stylus or a bone folder like this and a ruler, and you could place your ruler on where the score line needed to be and then just crease it with your bone folder, or you could use the back of a butter knife as long as you just don't want to cut your paper. And for pieces like this, you could just take and just run along that score line. So what I like to do to start with, to get these to fold before I add the adhesive, is I'll put from the back side, I'll put the ruler on there and I'll just fold it up against the ruler. And this just starts to break the paper fibers. And for these, I'm just going to use my finger. So I just place my fingernail, and I'm doing this from the back side. So I'm just starting to get this paper to move in the direction that it needs to move. So there's one piece, and again from the back side. So the front side is where you see the indentations. So just so that's clear. And I'll pull that one up and then start to crease this. And like I said, I just put my thumbnail just kind of along where it needs to crease. And you want to make sure that you make these pillow boxes out of a fairly heavyweight cardstock, at least 80 pounds. And you can see on this one, it's still got the barcode on the paper. That's not going to show. It's going to be on the inside, and it's going to be covered by this flap. So the next thing we want to do is put some adhesive on here. And you want like a strong double-sided adhesive. This is called score tape. But there's also red line tape out there. You could glue it. You would just, what I would do is put some clothespins or something on it to hold it as you glue one side. And then you would have to wait for it to dry and then glue the other side. But we're just going to make this easy today, and we are going to use some score tape. So I want my tape to go all the way to the edges of the flap, so I actually run it a little bit off the edge. And I'm going to trim. And for those of you picking up a kit at the library, I will already have this score tape on your pieces for you. And we're going to do the same thing on this side here. Trim that and trim this piece here. I'm just going to move that out of my way so I don't stick anything in it. And then what you're going to do is fold right along that, and this edge that does not have a flap is going to go there. And then this flap, we'll flip that over. Okay, so I'm going to peel off my adhesive, the backing to the adhesive piece. And I am going to place, actually I like to do it this way so I can see a little bit better that I'm getting right up. And you want to line it right up with that edge so that your end flaps will line up. Hopefully my head's not getting in the way there. Okay, and I'm just going to press that down really good and make sure that's adhered. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to fold this in, and it's a little sticky, but it should line right up with that edge. Okay, so we have our box put together, and then to close it, you just tuck one side in and then tuck the other side in. And you would do the same on this side. Tuck one in and then tuck the other one on top. And there is your pillow box. So now we're going to decorate our pillow box by just putting some paper bands around them. This is super easy to do. I'm just going to grab, oh, I'll just use the score tape, that'll work. Okay, so what I like to do is just, this piece is, let's see, it's 2 inches wide by 7.5 inches long. And I like to make it a little longer than I need so that I can overlap it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this score tape again, and I'm just going to put a piece along that edge. And you can use double-sided tape. Again, you can glue this with just liquid glue. All right, I'm going to get this around here so that I know it's fairly centered. And I'm going to peel off the backing. And again, I'm going to re-center this. And I'm just going to take the side with the adhesive and make sure that it's all lined up. And put that down in place. So there is our first band. And then I'm going to take another decorative piece of paper and put that right over the first piece. And this is 1 inch wide by 7.5 inches long. And again, we'll put just a little piece of score tape on the end of that. Okay. And again, we're just going to line this up a little bit in the center there and put that in place. And these will slide a little bit so you can adjust them. You just want to make sure it's tight enough but not too tight that it actually collapses the box. Okay, now we're going to do our little medallion piece. Let's see here. Where liquid glue? Where did it go? There it is. Okay, so these are just punched out shapes. I'm just going to layer the white one on top of the black one. So make sure you put your glue on the white piece, not the colored piece. Flip this over and just center it on this piece here. And these can be whatever shape you want. You can make them in a tag shape, you can make them in a square. It doesn't have to be a circle. I just thought that that looked kind of nice. And then I need to grab, whoop, I forgot to grab my hole punch. Hang on just a second. I'm going to grab that quickly. All right. So we're going to let that sit for just a second. And then for the cording, again, I'm going to use what is crochet thread. And we are going to make a string to go around this, just to kind of decorate it up, and then it will also give us a piece to tie our little tag to. So let's see, I cut a piece, it's about 24 inches long. It probably doesn't need to be quite that long. I just like to make sure I have plenty of room to tie a bow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a knot up towards the top end of this. So right up in here. I like to tie a knot first so that it holds in place while I put the tag on. So there, we've got our knot in place, and I can slide this up just a little bit. Okay, and we're going to take the hole punch, and this is an 1/8 inch hole punch because our thread is pretty small. And then on this little tag, we're going to do a punched out glitter heart, which I'm going to attach with some foam tape again. And that's just going to raise that heart off the paper a little bit. And I've got that just a little bit big, so I'm going to trim just a little bit of that off. There we go. All right. And I'm just going to kind of hold and position my heart where I want it. Actually, I think I want it on that side. And then I'm going to take another one of my little conversation heart stamps and just slide that over and kind of stamp that right in there. Ooh, that got a little off. That's okay. All right. And then we're going to remove the backing from our foam tape. And we're going to add our little glitter heart on there. Then you can take and thread one end of the string through the hole that we punched. And we're going to tie just one overhand knot just to kind of hold it in place. And you can kind of hook it in those scallops there, that will help. And then we're just going to tie a bow. Whoop. All right, we're going to scrunchie up our bow a little bit here. So yeah, you probably don't need 24 inches of thread here. I have quite a bit extra. I'll measure out what's an appropriate length and I'll put it in the description down below. I'll use this extra for a tag or something. Okay, so there we've got that there. And then I'm going to add just a few more glitter hearts around it. So let's see, I think we'll put one over there and one here and maybe one down here to just tie it. Well, let's see. I think I want to switch that. I think I want that there since that heart's there. And I think we're going to put the bigger one over here and this one down there. There we go, I like that better. Okay, so again, we're going to just put some dots of glue where I want our hearts to be, and again, I'm going to just use my little jewel picker here. All right, I think we'll go into the tweezers because the jewel picker does not like the glitter. All right, so we'll just lay that heart on there. And we want one here. And I'm just going to slide that off and one down here. Just pick up my little glitter hearts and set them right on top of my glue. And there is our little treat box. And you just open it up to put your treats in and close it back up when you're done. All right, so the last thing we need to do is work on our envelopes. So I have two different styles of envelopes that I made to go with these, and they are the exact size that you need to go for the little Valentines. So I have what's called a 1, 2, 3 punch envelope punch board. It makes envelopes in any size you want. And I just used the directions on the punch board to create an envelope that would fit the size of the Valentines we made. So all you need to do is just like any other envelope. Again, the creases are the front side. So you will just fold those in along the creases and fold it in on the opposite side. So these flaps go in first. Then this flap goes up, and then this will be your top flap that folds down. So you're just going to fold them on all four sides. Now when it comes to gluing them, you want to put glue on these inside flaps, because if you put it on this flap and you press that down, you're going to end up gluing your envelope shut. So just put a small line of adhesive just along those flaps. And you don't want this to be super tight or you won't be able to fit your card in there. So once in a while what I'll do is I'll actually take one of the cards and just set it inside there and then just fold it. And the glue is not going to hurt the card at all because we have it just on those little flaps. And then you're just going to push those flaps down, and you might have to hold them a little bit, and then you can take that out. It should just go where you stuck it. So that way you've got a little bit of give in your envelope. And then you just set those aside to dry when you're ready to mail this. And again, if I was going to mail this, I would put it in like a bigger size envelope and mail it that way. I don't think the post office, I think the post office would require extra postage to actually mail this particular size. So keep that in mind. If you're not going to hand deliver these, then I would put it in a little bit bigger size envelope that just requires regular postage. So before you seal it, then you could either seal it with a sticker, or you could just put a little bit of tape on the point there and then just close it. So that is the regular envelope. And then I have a pocket size envelope. So this creates, think about like a manila type envelope. That's the size that this is. And again, I have a die that cuts this, so that made that pretty easy. I do not have a pattern, however, for this particular size envelope. So you just fold the two sides in and then just run a small bead of glue along one of the sides. And you're just going to fold that in and press it down. And then just let it pop up like that so that you know that your card's going to fit in there. And then you're going to need glue along the bottom edge as well. And you're just going to fold that up. And again, just hold it in place a little bit till that glue sets up. I sometimes like to stick a stamp or something on top of it just to hold it while it's setting up. All right, so that is class for this month. I hope you enjoyed doing these. Here we'll kind of set out everything we made today. So we got our two envelopes. We have the two different styles of treat boxes, one in purple and one in red. We've got these two styles of Valentines. We've got these two styles. We've got this one and this one. And then we have our vintage Valentines. So thanks everybody for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this craft. We will be back in March with another craft. So stay tuned and watch our YouTube channel for that. Thanks everybody. Have a great day and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.